You're listening to Side by Side with Kathy Wilson. Episode 30, We Will Do It, Part 2. The day before drop-off was to take place, Julie joined me for my after-dinner coffee and asked me if I would go with her on her drop-off. She was feeling nervous about it because Cola was her first dog, and she never did this before. I just am so afraid that Cola is going to get us both lost, and then I would fail. Will you come with us? Greg said it would be okay. Sure, Duncan and I can do that. But don't forget, you will be with Cola, and she has had a lot of training on these streets. I'd bet a biscuit that she will know exactly what to do. You know too, but your anxiety is taking over. I'll go with you, but this will be your team's walk. Looks like we'll be going 2 walks tomorrow, Duncan. That evening, I applied the spit and polish to my graduation address. After my nightly chat with Ralph, I took the opportunity to go to the relief area with Duncan. Tomorrow would keep us busy, and I wanted to get plenty of sleep. As we were leaving our room to head downstairs, Susan approached us and asked if we would mind doing the walk with her and Marigold. Susan was a quiet woman who rarely said a word, and Marigold was really good at getting her own way. Steaming cow pies, this would be 3 walks for tomorrow. How could I refuse? It wasn't my experience these women were seeking, but Duncan's, so I asked him, Duncan, do you think you can handle 3 walks tomorrow? Will you be too tired? He waved his tail in his back and forth swish, which said all was well with him. So I agreed to going out with Susan tomorrow. I would need to consult with Greg so that Duncan had a bit of rest between the walks. I was ready to begin our day hours before we heard the ecstatic canine kennel chorus start its vocalizing. I gave Duncan a brushing along with the explanation of what was going to happen on that day. It took a few minutes, as did the mandatory relief trip. Since it was nearly breakfast, I got a cup of coffee and found an empty seat in the lounge. It was time to just relax and trust my dog and drink my coffee. I hear you are going on Julie's walk as well as Susan's. We better get your walk in this morning, and then you'll be free to do the others in the afternoon. Greg, will this be too much for Duncan? We'll both need a beer after that. No, Duncan won't even raise a sweat over this. But you'll have to settle for coffee. Greg took a long slug from his mug. I smell pancakes today. Things were so different now. For me, all the anxiety was missing. Things at home were peaceful. My own confidence was with me. And above all else, Duncan was here. That said it all. We would be taken in the school van and dropped off at an undisclosed location in Oakville and told to find our way back to the school. All of this would happen under the eyes of the instructors who were following in the van close by. That was it. Simple, right? Well, for me, that first time, it was scary. Failure was not something to be considered. But I did anyway. This time, I had agreed to make that walk 3 times, and the only difference was that I was not battling myself too. When we got out of the van that morning, I honestly had no idea where Duncan and I were standing. It was a quiet, residential street, and I wondered if we were actually uptown. Why couldn't I hear any traffic? Then a familiar sound came to my ear, and I gave Duncan a forward, then a left command. There, looking under the hood of his car, was a guy manfully using a ratchet. Ralph had used such a tool many times when he was changing his spark plugs. Strange how anything familiar can calm the merest hint of panic. I asked the man if he could give me an idea where I was. We have to go back to the Lions Foundation on Wilson Street, so I am wondering if Lakeshore Boulevard is nearby. The man immediately stopped his work under the hood and turned around. If you walk left up to the next intersection and turn right, then walk about 3 blocks, you will come to Lakeshore Boulevard. You will need to cross Lakeshore and make a left turn. You know, I've always wanted to meet someone who is there getting a dog. Thanks for asking for my help. I'm a lion, you know. Then I thank you for the excellent directions and for this school that gave me my Duncan. Hope you have success with your car. After receiving those excellent directions, our return trip was a breeze. I moved and stepped beside my Duncan. We halted at all the curbs, and I listened for the traffic to tell me when it was safe for me to go. I automatically made a right turn on Kerr when Dunk did before I realized what had happened. Duncan knew exactly where he was, and we were almost back at school. As we crossed Wilson Street and turned right, the school seemed to call a welcome back. The van passed on by, and the instructors offered us both their congratulations. I hugged my great Dunk and gave him a special cheesy treat for a real special dog. It was one that Duncan could not refuse. Lunch was over, and Duncan climbed into the very back of the van and sat contentedly while Julie and Cola took the middle seat, and I found a spot near Duncan. We were ready to go, and I had no trouble sensing Julie's tension. I felt the many turns Greg made to keep us from knowing exactly where we were, or even thinking that we did. As we got out of the van, I heard the instructors wishing Julie and Cola success as they drove away. I felt Julie's anxiety moving even higher. Kathy, I don't know where we are. For all I know, this could be Toronto or something. Is it Toronto, do you think? No, it's not Toronto. We got here too quickly, and we weren't on the QE either. No, Julie, you and Cola are somewhere in Oakville. Well, I have no idea. Do you? No, not a clue. So, we have to ask somebody and hope it's not a tourist. I smell coffee, don't you? We can't stop for coffee now. I need to get back. Okay, go into that coffee shop and ask them how far we are from Lakeshore Boulevard. When we get to Lakeshore, you're on the main drag and getting back becomes much more simple. This is the hard part, and you can certainly do it. Cola will get you into the coffee shop, and Dunk will take me. Julie was able to give Cola the right command, and Duncan just followed along behind. In no time, Julie found a helpful waitress who told her that Lakeshore Boulevard was half a block to our right. Sure enough, when we left the shop, it was just as the waitress promised, and we were on Lakeshore. Do we go left or right? Do we cross the street or stay on this side? Julie, what do you need to do to find this out? She didn't reply, but stopped a man as he was crossing Lakeshore. She was wondering what to do when I queried if he knew which way we needed to go to find Tim Hortons. The man laughed and said we needed to cross the street and turn left. Keep going until you smell the coffee. It will be on your right. Kathy, what is it with you and caffeine? Julie, Tim Hortons is on the way back to school, about a block away from where we have to make a right turn onto Kerr. You know that. We did it ourselves several times during class. Julie managed the street crossing without problems and praised Cola for doing so well. After that, she and Cola found Kerr Street and then the school. It was such a relief to share in their success, and definitely party time. But not coffee time, Kathy. I think there's pop in the fridge. What's Cola going to have? Maybe she would enjoy something. We'll share an apple. She'll like that. Julie gave Cola an affectionate pat along with an apple slice as we discussed the walk. I couldn't help but think that coffee was far more satisfying than a bottle of Pepsi. As we once again climbed into the van, it dawned on me that all day long my Dunk had been in the spotlight, and he hadn't noticed it at all. This time we would be walking with Susan and Marigold, and my boy was happy to once again be sitting in the back seat. Greg was an expert at turning the streets of Oakville into a confusing maze, and Susan just sat and stroked Marigold while she considered her quiet thoughts. They were serious thoughts for certain. She must be really worried about her walk. As we got out of the van, I noticed that Susan was turning around slowly and taking everything in. Then she said to me, "Okay, I think I know where I am. Marigold left." 2 streets later, I realized that Susan did know where she was because she was standing at the curb of Lakeshore Boulevard. "Susan, that was really good. You don't need my help at all." "Oh, Marigold and I are fine, but I have a worry, and I wanted a private time with you. I just have a feeling that you are the one who will understand." Our steps had slowed down, and Duncan was wondering why we didn't get going, but maybe his cat was too tired to go, so he'd take it slow. My boyfriend last night said that if I brought the dog home, I could say so long to him, and I think he meant it. He's asking a lot of you, so what did you say? I was a stupid crybaby. I just couldn't believe he said that. Then he said that Marigold was just a stupid dog, and he couldn't understand what all the fuss was for. We walked on in silence for a few minutes more. Then I asked her, "Have you made any decisions?" "I'm going to graduate with Marigold tomorrow night, and she will come home with me, and Nathan can take a hike." "That's the choice I would make, too. It doesn't sound like Nathan cares what is best for you. Doesn't he like dogs? He thinks I would pay more attention to Marigold than I would to him." All of a sudden, we were back on Wilson, and Marigold was overjoyed to have completed the walk. Susan accepted congratulations from Greg and Leah. "Susan, you and Marigold just did an excellent walk. You certainly didn't need Kathy and Duncan." "Yes, I did. Kathy helped me make a decision that's been disturbing me for weeks. Now I made it. All's good." With that, Susan and Marigold went into the school, and Leah asked me what I did to help her. I just listened, that's all. Only listened. It's hard to find someone who knows how to do that. You must be proud of Big Dunk today. I sure am. Leah rubbed my shy lab and reminded me that it was dinner time. With these words, Duncan increased his speed. For once, dinner was his favorite subject.